What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in the Khaliis Take. You know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell just so you can get the newest and the bonus content first. But hey, let's just go ahead and jump right in. Yeah, so I was reading the reports about the Kyrie Irving situation, possibly going to the Lakers. And, over the last 24 hours, I would say, looking at Sports Illustrated and a couple other sites, there are reports that the Kyrie possible trade to the Lakers has been re-energized due to the fact that LeBron James has re-signed his extension with the Lakers, getting the big fish out the way in regards to keeping your big fish there, which is LeBron, AD so far, and Russell Westbrook still until they decide to, let him go. But mainly LeBron and AD, your big fish is still there, getting them out the way. Having them under contract, or at least LeBron under contract, that's definitely good, and that definitely could re-energize the Kyrie situation, because if Kyrie does want to come to LA and everything, he would only come if LeBron James is there. I don't think he would come if Anthony Davis or if Russell Westbrook would be there, which of course that wouldn't be the case, because they would trade Russell Westbrook for Kyrie possibly. And then on top of that, I see the reports about the Lakers having offering the 2027 and 2029 picks offering, to the Brooklyn Nets. Now, of course, I'm going to sit here and say this. I don't think that they should, go that far for Kyrie, because first of all, if Kyrie comes to the Lakers, it's only going to be for a 1 year or 2 year deal at most. And even if he does sign longer, after 1 or 2 years, you'll get tired of having Kyrie on your roster anyway, simply because, a lot of people just can't deal with him. And a lot of his so-called teammates that he's had has looked at him as more as a disruptive teammate rather than a useful or helpful one. So, like I said, no more than 1 or 2 years you keep Kyrie if you have the opportunity to get him anyway. So I wouldn't go all out giving up picks and all that stuff for Kyrie, because you never know, one of those picks might bring you the future. You see what I'm saying? So you definitely got to be careful if you're giving away picks, or even if that's a part of your offering to another team, because another team is definitely going to wince at that, because, first of all, it's two sides to that. When you give up a pick, as I said, as I just alluded to, you can give up a future pick that they might get, that might be a generational talent, and you had the opportunity to get them, but you gave your picks for a Kyrie Irving, a guy that you can't trust, a player that's not all in, and a player that's really not a good locker room guy. And every team he goes to, he seems to be the problem everywhere he goes. So, or there seems to be a problem there because he's on the roster. So even though his talent is so immensely high, and Kyrie is definitely one of the best players we've ever seen, definitely the best handle we've ever seen, I think it's still, the fact still remains that Kyrie is still a liability more than an asset at times. So, if I were the Lakers, I understand they're trying to get Kyrie so bad because LeBron wants it, and you definitely have to try to go with the best player's, opinion in regards who he wants to play with and how he's approaching the game. So I definitely understand that. LeBron definitely wants Kyrie over Russell Westbrook any day of the week, and I definitely wouldn't blame him, because Kyrie, to me, at this point, is a better player than Russell Westbrook. What I saw last year from Russell Westbrook wasn't good enough to even be a top 20 player in the league, let alone being a top 75 player of all time. Like, that's not what we saw last year. And don't get me wrong, he had glimpses and everything like that. And I like Russell Westbrook, I do. But at the same time, I got to be critical, and I got to call it how I see it. Russ is a very intriguing player, especially when he's engaged and he's ready to go. But people have to understand the expectation of that purple and gold wearing a Lakers jersey is so much different than being on any other team in the NBA, or a lot of other teams in the NBA, because it just has a lot of legacy behind that jersey and within that jersey. So Russ doesn't really understand that, because Russ is more individual, an individual type superstar. And what I mean by that is he's more about individual stats that keeps him relevant as a superstar, not less being a superstar because he's good enough to do his own thing individually with his own stats and attributes, along with helping a team win a championship. And that's the reason why I think the Lakers have really, fell in their face with Russell Westbrook along with LeBron James, because honestly, if anybody was going to make Russell Westbrook a lot better in regards to being a better player on a team that's going for a championship, it would have been LeBron James. But LeBron just can't do it. He's too old. And on top of that, even though he played great last year, it took a lot of his own energy to play as great as he did. But even though all the great games he had and all the big scoring nights he had, it didn't amount to any wins. They still were 10, 15 games under 500. They still were an abominable team amongst a lot of other teams in the NBA. And they still were the second best team in LA, California, to a Clippers team who didn't have neither one of their superstars. And excuse me. And with that being said, the Clippers still end up finding a way, to make it to a play-in tournament, and the Lakers didn't even have a chance to make it to the play-in tournament, which is very shocking because the Lakers had 3 top 75 players on the floor at some point in many games last year, and they still couldn't find a way to win a lot of those games with 3 of them on the floor. I mean, in a situation with the Lakers, even if they don't have Kyrie, they still should win a lot of games off of talent more so than chemistry, because they're that talented. They got that much depth on the team, at least in the starting lineup. At least you can say they are a top-heavy team. A top-heavy team can make the playoffs, and a top-heavy team can definitely make a play-in tournament. You see what I'm saying? Now, having a bench with, a good starting lineup definitely can bode well for more of a championship team. But the Lakers are really top-heavy right now, and that's okay. But at the same time, you should at least be making the playoffs, not sitting at home watching other teams in the play-in tournament, and you didn't even make it. I mean, hell, the Pelicans made the play-in tournament, and they didn't even have Zion Williamson. And, Brandon Ingram held it down for the most part until they got CJ McCollum at some point in the season last year, and then they tried to make a run. They got past the Clippers in the play-in tournament and made to the playoffs, and ultimately lost in the first round. But still, look at the Clippers getting to the play-in tournament without their superstars, and then the Pelicans without their superstar player in Zion. This is what I'm saying. Like, you're having trouble, keeping up with teams like that, and they don't even have their star players. So, the Lakers are in a real rut right now, and I don't even know if Kyrie Irving can really make all the world difference, because Kyrie only plays one side of the basketball, which is offense, and offense is great, but at the same time, defense always wins championships. When you make great defensive plays in a 7-game series, usually that team comes out on top. Usually that team comes out and actually wins that series and move on and advance until they actually make it to the finals and win it, because defense is probably the bigger part of playing championship level basketball than offense, even though offense is more highly predicated and looked upon as the staple, because everybody loves offense and everybody loves shooting Stephen Curry and all that stuff. Great. But at the same time, defense is definitely going to carry you a lot further. And my point is, that's why I said I don't know if the Lakers should go all out with giving away picks and all these things for Kyrie, and Kyrie might not even be half worth it, because like I said, everywhere Kyrie goes, of course his talent comes with him, but along with his talent comes his attitude, and attitude reflects leadership, and the leadership that he has, the leadership skills that he have, are very minimal to me. They're not very high, and honestly, neither is his running mate, Kevin Durant, on the Brooklyn Nets. So I don't think neither one of those players are good leaders. I think both of those players are really followers, what I'm saying, just mentality wise. Now, Kevin Durant's a great player by, his actions on the court. He's a great player, but he doesn't lead by example in the way of, really carrying a team to a championship, because we've never seen him do that. He won 2 championships with the Warriors, but that's the Splash Brothers along with Draymond Green in their prime. So you're definitely going to win a championship with them. Hell, you could win a championship with them now if you went to them, as you can see, because they just won one without Kevin Durant once again. So this is my point. Kevin Durant can't lead a team, and neither can Kyrie. So that's my point. LeBron's getting to a point where he can't carry teams the way he used to. And if that's the case, then, eventually he's going to need somebody to take over that number 1 role. And honestly, it should have been Anthony Davis, but he stays too hurt to do it. And if they do get Kyrie, they might expect him to do it. But Kyrie doesn't need to be your number 1 guy, because every time Kyrie has been a number one guy, which hasn't been often, I think pretty much Cleveland before LeBron came back, which was a fluke because Cleveland couldn't do anything. And then on the Boston Celtics, I mean, they had a team good enough, I thought, to win it all at that time back then with Kyrie Irving and young Tatum and young Jaylen Brown and Al Horford, I think. And, you know, they had Marcus Smart, I believe, too. They had other good pieces. So, I mean, they pretty much had predominantly the same team Boston has now, minus Kyrie, or added Kyrie back then. So, I mean, but everywhere Kyrie goes, somewhat looked at as a leader, it doesn't work out. And that's the point. You know, you can't count on Kyrie. So, I mean, I hope the Lakers know what they're doing. If they do happen to get Kyrie and move Russell Westbrook and give away 2 picks, hopefully that really works out for them in the long run. And you got to hope the 2 picks you gave away don't turn into all-time great mega superstar type players coming out the draft, and it's going to Brooklyn rather than going to LA, where LA is used to having ongoing talent, you know, throughout the years. So it's really up in the air right now with the Kyrie Irving situation. As I said before, I'm standing on my words. I'm standing on what I said. I don't think the Kyrie Irving situation and the trade's going to go through now. If anything, at best, you might be able to do something, you know, mid-season, an all-star break, depending on how great Russell Westbrook plays and, you know, the momentum and everything, how things are going, and, you know, depending on how everything goes there, if any deals can be made. More than likely, though, you're going to see Kyrie possibly go to the Lakers. If it's meant to happen, probably next offseason is more like what I'm thinking, because they'll have more opportunity to get rid of Russell Westbrook and they'll have more room. And of course, LeBron's locked in for 2 years, and Anthony Davis is going to be there unless they decide to do something with him, because his production is not living up to caliber or living up to par as they thought it would, which right now I can honestly say it isn't. But so we'll see how all that pans out. But if there's any type of situation where Kyrie can come to the Lakers before the start of this season, that would be huge for the Lakers, of course. Definitely make them a playoff team, might make them a little bit more than that. But at the same time, we have to see whether it happens. But right now, it's just all speculation. It's all in the air and nothing's really definite. So we have to take it day by day and see how it pans out. But really, don't be surprised if until next offseason you see Kyrie on the Lakers, if it's really meant to happen. Don't be surprised if it turns out that way, because honestly, with all the reports and speculation, that's all you're hearing is report and speculation. You're not seeing any action behind it. So unless it happens, of course, we take it and run with it. But if it don't, then I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie doesn't get traded to the Lakers before the season starts in a month from now. But hey, that's my take from now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Check out any other videos if you haven't. And hey, Khaliis out.